A very good evening, Zimbabwe. You are listening to Studio 7 from the Voice of America on Friday, May 8th, 2015. And this is Live Talk. I'm Blessing Zulu.
And I'm Kip Stube.
And tonight on Live Talk, we are going to talk about a survey done by Afrobarometer and the Massa Public Opinion Institute that has generated a lot of interest by its claim that President Robert Mugabe remains very popular amongst Zimbabweans.
To join the discussion, phone us directly at this number 001-202-619-2077. We'll call you back.
Live Talk goes out to Zimbabwe on our 909 medium wave frequency and on the 4930, 5940 and 15460 kilohertz shortwave, Monday through Friday at 8:30 p.m.
On the internet, you can find us at www.voazimbabwe.com, www.voashona.com, and www.voindebele.com.
It was conducted in the country's 10 administrative provinces. For information, all respondents were randomly selected, and the sample was distributed across provinces and urban or rural areas in proportion to their share in the national population. So every adult citizen that is 18 and above years old had an equal chance of being selected for the interviews. So we basically used face-to-face interviews in the language of the respondent's choice. And our sample size, for information, was 2,400 adult citizens.
Lokhu kuliqiniso ngoba okokuqala sibona ngama-results ama-election adlule kathesi lapho umongameli awine khona esingathi i-two-thirds majority eParliament la amavoti akhe ukuze abe ngumongameli welizwe leZimbabwe. Vanenge vachitiwa kuti patifine kuti kana mchiti-trust nokureva kuti chii nokuti hazvirevo kuti kana ndikatiwo ndinokutrasta ndaakureva kuti kana kuendwa kusarudzo ndaakunokuvhotera. Tofanira kuunderstanda context nyaya yetrust kana kuti kana vanhu vachibvunzwa nyaya yetrust. Experience yangu ndeyekuti vazhinji vanhu nyaya dzemasurveys vanodzitya. Pane fear, number one. Number two, pane nyaya yekuti there is power of propaganda.
Once again, thanks for joining us, and you are listening to Studio 7 Live Talk. And tonight on Live Talk, we are going to talk about a survey that was done by Afrobarometer and the Massa Public Opinion Institute.
According to the survey, which was commissioned by Afrobarometer in November last year, 63% of the surveyed people said they trusted Mr. Mugabe more than any other public official and institution. The public institutions which the Mass Public Opinion Institute gauged public opinion on included the ZRP, Zimbabwe Revenue Authority, Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, Zimbabwe National Army, opposition political parties, parliament, and local government councils.
The survey found that Mr. Mugabe enjoys a greater support in rural areas where 70% trust him, while he only enjoys about 45% trust of the urban people. An additional statistic is that 54% of Zimbabweans trust his ruling ZANU-PF party. And where are the opposition parties in all this? The survey found that the opposition parties were the least supported institutions, trusted only by 34% of Zimbabweans. Gibbs.
If you wish to join the show right now, phone us directly at this number 001-202-619-2077 and we'll call you back. That number again, 001-202-619-2077. Ye kunjalo fwetu.
Honguka hama dzadiwa nasi tinoda kuti tinge tichitaura nezve ongororo kana tsvakiritso yakaitwa iyo nesangano reAfrobarometer richishanda nereMass Public Opinion Institute. Iro rakaburitsa kuti pane zvavakaona vanhu vazhinji vane chivimbo kana kuti vane trust navamugabe kudarika mamwe masangano ari munyika akaita sana ZEC, vana zimura, mapurisa nevamwe pamwe nemapato anopikisa. Asi ongororo iyi inenge yakaita mutauro wakanyanya titarisa paFacebook apa Gibbs nehondo dzakamuka pamatwitter vanhu vachitaura nezvazvo. Asi hapana chakaipa kuti vanhu vataurewo pfungwa dzavo Gibbs.
Kunjalo ke mfowethu labanengi phela sebesebenzisa ke isurvey leyi ngendlela ezitshiyeneyo. Abanye bathi ya umnomzana uMgabe ungani iye uthandwa ngabantu abaningi abanye baphinde bethi no akunjalo mfowethu njengoba besitsho abakufunayo ye zulukandaba sizwile kakhulu lapha kuthiwa i-afro barometer kanye ekade sebenzelana le mass public opinion institute bakuveze kakhulu okufiswa ngabantu kwele zimbabwe bebekhangela i-national army bekhangela izimra kuzobuya-ke i-zimbabwe electoral commission kuzobuya amabandla aphikisayo ibandla le-ZANU-PF idala lephalamende kanye lamakhansili ye okuphumile khonapho kumangalisa abanye abantu blessing singathi-ke 70% of abantu emaphandleni ngale bakhanya ngazani bathi umnumzana uMgabe uyethembeka kakhulu kuzobuya-ke 45% abasemadolobheni bathi ya ngabe thembeka kodwa akufikanga ku-50%. Kuzobuya njalo-ke nxa sukhangelwe ibandla le-ZANU-PF abantu abafika 54% bathi bayalithemba leli bandla nxa sokubuya-ke abantu abaphikisa uhulumende lokuthiwa ama-opposition parties abantu bathi asibathandi kangako asithembe ukuthi bangasenzela okuhle funa ukuzwa ngozulu tuthini mfowethu.
Oh, yes. Gibbs, I think we have our first guests lined up. First, we have the spokesperson for the opposition movement for democratic change, Mr. Obed Gutu. Mr. Gutu, good evening.
Good evening, Blessing. Good evening, listeners. Thank you for having me, Sisonge.
Thank you so much. And I think we are also being joined by Meli Dube, Bulawayo Agenda Director. Mr. Dube, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Gibbs, you can start the ball rolling.
Let's start with Mr. Kutu. Mr. Kutu, what can you say about this kind of survey? I know that you say, the president is not popular, but is there anything that we can take away from this kind of survey?
Oh, thank you very much, Gibbs. Let me start by saying that as the MDC, we of course, very seriously check scientific studies which help us to, inform us more particularly about the political environment that is obtaining in Zimbabwe at the moment. And obviously, as the MDC, will always take our time to make sure that we thoroughly study the report of the Mass Public Opinion Institute that was done in conjunction with Afrobarometer. And would also want to use the findings of this study as a base upon which we are going to design our strategies, particularly as we gear ourselves to prepare for the next election, which we are convinced should be taking place sooner than 2018, because the ZANU-PF regime is collapsing, and we are thoroughly convinced that we might not have to wait as long as 2018 before the country goes for elections. I would also be quick to say that that survey was obviously done by reputable organizations that we cannot take away from. But at the same time, I'll be quick to also emphasize that the present political environment in Zimbabwe is dominated by fear and insecurity, largely because of the tyrannical and dictatorial tendencies of the ZANU-PF regime over the years. We all know that since independence in 1980, ZANU-PF as a political organization have perfected the art of political thuggery. They have perfected the art of electoral manipulation, voter intimidation, and we are also acutely aware of what is happening right now in Urungwe West. I was listening attentively earlier on this evening as you guys, Blessing in particular, you were playing the clip, sound clip where Ignatius Chombo had literally threatening the people of Urungwe West, advising them that Masabuku would actually be in front of the queues and that they will make sure that the people vote as Chombo and his gang want. This is the kind of environment in terms of which or under which the survey by Mpoi and the Afrobarometer was conducted. In other words, it is an environment of fear, an environment of intimidation, and is an environment where obviously the respondents would be fearful. And in a situation that is of that nature, the people of Zimbabwe, particularly the ordinary Zimbabweans, are very fearful, especially if they are being interviewed by people that they don't know, by strangers. And to that extent, as the MDC, we are thoroughly convinced that there is no way that Robert Mugabe and ZANU-PF can be popular. And I'm actually happy that Mpoi and Afrobarometer use the word trust, and as distinct from the word loved or supported. And one can also then look at the background of this survey. This was November 2014, and this was at a time when even the internal squabbling within the MDC was perhaps at its peak. And when you look at the 6 months that have since elapsed between November 2014 and now May 2015, a lot of things have changed. When the survey was done, Mahmoud Juri had not yet been chucked out of ZANU-PF. The ZANU-PF presidentship charade that they called the Congress had not yet taken place because it happened in December 2014. And as of December 2014, when ZANU-PF started collapsing like a deck of cards, when ZANU-PF factions came out in the fore, the Gamatox faction, the Weavers faction, the Gang of Four, and now we have various other sub-factions, you will realize that if a survey was going to be carried out right now, it will be fundamentally different from what happened in November 2014. So the long and short of it is that this survey is just but a survey. But even if we might even want to look at the British election, where 24 hours before the election yesterday, they said that the election was a dead hit between the Conservatives and the Labour Party. And everyone was convinced that maybe Britain is heading for another coalition government. But look what happened. The Conservatives have come out with a runaway victory against all odds. And the exit polls last evening, everyone, including seasoned political scientists, were being totally taken aback. So ZANU-PF should not actually think that they are popular. If anything, ZANU-PF remains a mafia organization that the majority of the people of Zimbabwe, both in the rural areas and in the urban areas, do not support at all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gutu. Please do stay on the line. And of course, Gibbs, we also have responses on WhatsApp about this survey. Ernest says, even if the whole country supports him, His Excellency must retire. His age is not supporting him. He must step down. Charles says, Mr. Mugabe does not by any means have grassroots support, but only institutional favor. For example, ZEC sympathizes with Mr. Mugabe. That is why he gunned the so-called rigged 63%. If they think Mr. Mugabe has popular support, they must advise him on electoral reforms so that the results will tell. He uses an iron fist type of leadership. Maybe the one who could have conducted that observation is not aware of the situation on the ground. His study is marred by a lot of irregularities. Mr. Tsvangirai has never lost an election since the formation of MDC 1999. This study is null and void. Baldwin says, I don't agree with Afrobarometer survey. It's a lie. They should conduct their country surveys instead of causing controversy in our country. The truth is the president has lost popularity a long time ago. Edmo says sometimes you tend to wonder how these so-called independent Pan-Africanist Afro-barometers conduct the surveys. Maybe they went to some dubious housing cooperatives who lied to them. These are some of the responses we are getting. Gibbs, interesting. And I think we have our second guest, that is Dr. Nkululeko Sibanda.
Is a lecturer at Huddersfield University in Britain. Dr. Sibanda, good evening and welcome to the program. Good evening, sir. So what can you say about this survey by Afrobarometer and POI? Mhm. 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 Mm.
But interestingly, in the UK where you are, the posters missed it by a wide margin, right? Hmm.
Mhm.
So it happened. Hmm. 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 Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm. 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 Thank you so
Mhm.
much. We diverted a little, but it's an interesting poll too that Zimbabweans were watching closely. One, of course, by the current Prime Minister, David Cameron. Tine muteereri mukoma Innocent makadi. Mukoma Innocent.
Mhm.
Tipewo pfungwa dzenyu mukoma Innocent panyaya yesurvey. Mhm.
Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm. Mhm. Mhm. Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
Ah, mhm. Asika asika mukoma Innocent havakataure nemunhu wese kavanongotsvaga vanhu vashoma kana kuti tingati chiuru kana kuti 1000 vobvunza ivavo havangakuti mese. Mhm. 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 Mhm.
Mhm.
Aiwa, tinotenda zvikuru mukoma Innocent. Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
Aiwa, tinotenda zvikuru mukoma Innocent. Mhm.
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 Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
Mhm. Thank you so much for that response. Please do stay on the line. Gibbs.
I think, Mr. Kutu, this brings in the issue of the universality of this kind of survey. Does it really apply to the whole of Zimbabwe, or is just, some bit of samples here and there?
Yeah, I'm happy that Gibbs, the other people on the program are actually seeing it the way we are seeing it as MDC. To say, look, Zimbabwe is a very unique country where the fear factor is paramount. If you go out there, even here in the urban areas, to carry out a survey and you ask questions of a political nature or with a political connotation, and you are asking these to people who don't know you. In other words, there's a stranger. If I go to Bindura and I start asking people questions with a political inclination, chances are, because of the fear factor that has been inculcated within the people of Zimbabwe, within the Zimbabwean body politic, you would normally not get answers that are truly reflective of what the respondents really want to see. Because there is this fear that the CIO is everywhere. And I have heard even people who are very learned people, very well-placed people in society, who don't trust strangers, who would even say, be it at a wedding, at a party, a social gathering, at a funeral, they say, politics, they say, no, politics, because so when you look at that level of fear, even amongst people who are supposed to be knowledgeable, what then can you expect when you go out there in the villages, out there, resettlement areas?
I'll cut you short there. Yeah. I'll really cut you short there. I think I got it.
Here where I'm totally convinced that the survey, I'm not taking anything away from the Mpoi and the Afro Barometer survey, but all I'm saying is Zimbabwe is a very unique kind of situation.
Okay.
And this is why even ZANU-PF, you find that there's a muted happiness, because they know Kuti, in the mighty hour, they are not supported by the people. And whatever a survey might say, it is not good enough to excite them, because they know that there is a story behind the story.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kutu. So let me get a caller. There's a caller on the line. A caller on the line right now. Baba Nkomo, ungaunjani kuna hapa South Africa?
Yes, brother.
Siphile Nkomo. So lele phone ukuthi sikuzwe mzala. Ubona njani lokho kukhulunywa ke isurvey le? Besithi abantu abatrusta umongameli Robert Mugabe bangabe bebaningi kanganani? Wakhanya ngazani ke 63% bathi bamtrusta. Kuzobuya ke nxa sugagela ke ama opposition parties kumbe ngithi abaphikisayo bathi amabandla lawa asiwathandi kangako. Singathe abathandi abathembi kangako. So ke khonapho ke yikho ngani sikhuluma ngakho baba Nkomo. Yeah, 10 seconds. 10 seconds to cut in 10 seconds. Ten seconds. Ngende sichayile insimbi uyizwile baba. Sipoke kakhulu enkomo ungathina lakusasa baba. So what Mr. Nkoma is saying, you could feel the anger, right? He's saying politics in Zimbabwe is full of lies. He says people just cook things, and there's need to teach the new generation new issues altogether so that the politics of Zimbabwe becomes normal. So he says these leaders that are there, you must get rid of them. Get new guys that don't even think of tribalism and all those kind of issues.
And Dr. Sibanda, are you on the line? Yes, there is of course, an editorial by the Newsday, which is actually saying that opposition the parties must heed the survey or perish, and of course they are saying that the recommendations in the survey should actually spur the opposition into revising their methodologies, tactics and strategies. Zimbabweans want change, but not just for the sake of it. Northern electorate would thrust their trust in parties that always fragment over slight provocation. What is your take on this editorial? Dr. Sibanda, we have to cut you short. Please hold on that thought. We'll come back to you after a short break. Mr. Gutu, thanks for joining us this evening. For our radio listeners, remember, we are streaming live. Go to www.voazimbabwe.com and press on Live Talk. This is Blessing Zulu.
And I'm Kip Stube saying, stay tuned.
For those of you who are just joining us, good evening, and this is Studio 7 Live Talk. And tonight on Live Talk, we are talking about a survey that was conducted by Afrobarometer and the Mass Public Opinion Institute. And according to the survey, Zimbabweans trust Mr. Mugabe. That is about 63% of Zimbabweans trust Mr. Mugabe. As for the opposition, well, it's bad news. Only about 34%. Gibbs.
Now, some of the findings at glance, Blessing, not only was the survey concentrated on President Mugabe, there were other issues. On perceptions of corruption, a majority of adult Zimbabweans believe that the level of corruption in the country has increased over the past years. And then trust in state institutions. Adult Zimbabweans generally trust most of their key institutions, but level of trust varies considerably in location. Then China's role in Zimbabwe. There you go. A majority of adult Zimbabweans believe that China's economic activities in Zimbabwe have some or a lot of influence on the country's economy. Then media usage. Zimbabweans rely on radio for news, TV, newspapers, internet, and social media. Then on medical male circumcision, Zimbabweans support voluntary medical male circumcision, even though it has been found to reduce the risk of HIV transmission. So there you go.
Dr. Asbanda, you can continue. You were talking about, of course, the editorial by Newsday that opposition parties must heed the message from Afrobarometer and Mpoi. Thank you so much. Tine mumwe muteereri agara parunare vagore. Makadii vagore? Aiwa, tiripo zvedu kuri sei kwarusape? Oh, muri kwachienda mbuya? Okay. Mm. Eh, eh, mm, mhm, 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 mhm. I, mhm. Aiwa, tinotenda zvikuru vagore nekupinda muchirongwa chedu. I think Gibbs, we are being joined by another guest, that is Mr. Jacob Mafume, spokesperson of the MDC renewal team. Mr. Mafume, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Gibbs.
Mr. Mafume, before you respond to any question that I'll pose, let me read one key finding, of this survey. It says adult Zimbabweans trust religious leaders more than they trust other key individuals and institutions. So are you in the wrong field in terms of politics? Maybe you can form your own kind of religious movement, right?
The religious movement, we've got a desperate society that has been is looking for miracles because all tactics against ZANU-PF have failed. People can no longer understand. They put all efforts to succeed, but they keep failing. So you will find that people believe that if they get a handkerchief and wipe it against a car, they will get 2 cars. Some believe that if you give the priest money, you will get an agreement with the Emirates, the airlines. So the hopelessness of our situation has made the people go and look for solace and hope in religion. You remember Karl Marx said that religion is the opium of the poor. And in these instances, in an unregulated religious environment, people are beginning to believe in miracles. Then people can't afford going to hospitals. They cannot pay for expensive operations. They cannot pay for expensive procedures. So all they can do is hope that someone will touch their legs and they will be healed. Someone will touch their heads and they will be healed. So that is a reflection of what is happening. The churches are full of people every day. There are hundreds and thousands of people who go to the churches and will believe in what they are saying. So the survey is accurate on that score.
Interesting. Very interesting. So we've got a caller on the line, Blessing, and that is Gibson Mlauzi. Mr. Mlauzi, good evening and welcome to the program. How are you, Mr. Mlauzi? Good. Where are you? How is Beitbridge? Do you read some of these Met reports where they say it's going to be cool, cold, becoming mild, with 1 or 2 chances of an afternoon shower becoming cold later? Have you read that? So now, what can you say about the findings of this kind of survey? So now, if you are approached by somebody right now, Mr. Mlaus, conducting a survey, what would be your reaction to some of the questions that are being posed? So if somebody says, yeah, go ahead. Very interesting, right? So are people not afraid of answering questions in Beitbridge from any person conducting a survey? Are people not afraid of strangers asking questions in Beitbridge? So literally, you are saying it was rigged. Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you so much, Mr. Mlaus. And have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much. There you hear. You heard him.
Yes. Let's have Mkoma George Makadipa Botswana. aiwa tiripo. Nyaya iri mudariro mainzwa mukoma George, tipewo pfungwa dzenyu. Mhm. 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 Aiwa, tinotenda mukoma George. Tinotenda zvikuru mukoma George. Thank you so much. Of course, George, like some callers is talking about what is alleging to be the use of repressive state apparatus by the government. Gibbs.
Let's get back to Mr. Spanda. Mr. Spanda, just a quick critic of this kind of survey. You know, what I've realized is that it is very, very quantitative and not qualitative. So let's look at one of the questions, you know, about ZEC. It says, how much do you trust each of the following, or haven't you heard enough about them? This is ZEC, right? So at the end of the day, if you have such structured questions, you are bound to get some very funny, or let me say, simply minded kind of answers. Is that correct? Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, ufake ngesintu kancane khonokho, just ngesintu nje 1 minute. Mm. 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 Siyabonga baba. Yeah, bless.
Mr. Mafume, what are the takeaways from this survey for your party?
Party is that we need to reevaluate. That's why we are talking about renewal. We need to renew our strategies. We need to renew how we are engaging the regime. We must recognize that the social base has changed. They are now cash crop farmers, tobacco farmers, small-scale miners, and these people are in their millions and thousands. We need to be able to reach out to them and give them a message that resonates with them. We have to understand that over the past 15 years, the social base that informs the electorate has been transformed from the peasantry has been broadened. They are no longer workers. There's 98% unemployment. Most people do not know what it means to have a job in Zimbabwe. So therefore, we have to re-engage and re-evaluate our strategies. We need to reduce the margin of fear. I would not say what people have expressed is a liking to Mugabe, but what they've measured is the margin of terror that is extended from the streets into the ballot box. So if the person is afraid to answer truthfully outside and in secret, it therefore follows that they might also be afraid to vote truthfully in the ballot. So they will also vote against what they intend or what they think in their own brain. So we need to be able to remove that margin of terror from the heart of the people so that they are not afraid. They are able to tell what they like, and consequently they are able to vote what they like. So these are the takeaways. We need to take this seriously. Afrobarometer is not a fly-by-night heavy machinery. These are experts, and they've done this for years, and with certain degree of accuracy. So we need to listen and understand what they are trying to say, what the constituency is trying to communicate to us. And then we need to be able to do that. We still have time. There's 36 months before the next election. We need to have a renewed leadership, renewed strategies, and a renewed focus. Then we will get there.
Thank you so much. Gibbs.
And Mr. Dr. Spanda, it seems as if most rural women actually trust the president. Why?
Well, they should trust the president because we live in a chauvinistic society. You know, he's a male in a old child and so forth, and for that reason they are bound to publicly trust him because disrespect to him may in many ways be disrespect to their own husbands in a man's world. But also because Mugabe uses a lot of tactics that include fear and injury, and women will quickly respond to naturally to somebody who's associated with those things, and hope that respecting them will guarantee them some level of safety and security. These are some of the possible explanations, or possibly that they surely do trust this president, despite the experiences we've had with him over the last 30 years, the accusations of having murdered 20,000 people and thousands in the last 15 years, which would be surely shocking. But you must remember that there's the power of the media here, what media they listen to, what access they have to some facts regarding the job, the things that the president has done in the last 30 years.
Thank you so much. Todzoka kwamuri vamafumi, asi sezvataverenga zvachinyorwawo nebepanhau reNewsday riri kuti vanhu vangavimbe nemi sei imi muchingoti mukanetsana uyo afuma rimwe bato rake uyo afoma bato rake, vari kuti vanhu vanenge vakuneta nekuti vanopikisa vacho vanenge vasiri kuziva kuti vari kuenda here kana kuti vari kudzoka.
Political monogamy kana kuti kungoramba wakanamatirana nebato one ndozvakuwadzisa zimbabwe. Vanhu vakanyanya kubatana vachingoramba vari muzanu pf kusvika pasina anokwanisa kuchallenja vamugabe. A multi-party democracy is exactly that. It has to be a multi-party democracy. Isusu maonero edu and your opinion in newspaper yanga isimo musurvey question. We need to make people understand that being in political parties zvasiyana nekuroora mukadzi kwaunovimbisa kuva naye kusvika mukufa. Tinofanirwa kutarisa kuti mapato ngaawande, ngavasiyane-siyane, vapatuke Zimbabwe ite mafungiro akasiyana-siyana, kwete kuita gundamusaira rinenge hwiza. Gundamusaira inenge hwiza ndoyanyidza nyika ino, vanhu vachingotevera vachingoimba vatungamiri sevakabva kuna Mwari. Hazvizirizvo mukutarisa zviri kubva muvanhu, hazvizi zvekumanya kutsvaga mhinduro, hazvizi zvekuti tivhundukire tichitsvaga mhinduro. Ngatimirei tidzikamise pfungwa tinyatsoteerera zviri kutaurwa nevanhu. Tateerera, hatingangoiti gungano rokungoungana tichiinda kumatope, gungano rokungoungana tichiimbana tobva taona seti kufamba. Ngatifungei sevanhu vezimbabwe. Mukufunga ndo muchabuda anza, mukuwanda kwemafungiro ndo kunobuda anza. Machechi akawanda stereki, vanhu vari kutadza here kuenda kudenga nekuti machechi awanda. Aiwa, vanoenda kudenga nemanamatiro avanodini avanoita. Saka mapati akawanda, nyika inobudirira nekuwanda kwepfungwa dzakasiyana-siyana. Zviri kuita kuZambia, kuKenya nedzimwe nyika dzakadaro. Nyika dzinongori nemapati mashoma-shoma tiri kudziona dzichitadza kubudirira.
Of course, Mr. Mafume is saying the merrier for the political parties. Multiple democracy is good.
Yes, we need to have alternative thought process. We need to have coalitions in this country. We don't need this father figure kind of politics. Let Robert Mugabe be the last father figure politician. Mugabe is our greatest mistake as a country. We followed him without thinking. We cannot remove him and replace him with another image of a god-like figure or a father figure. We don't need a father for the country. We need a worker for the country. Someone who works, anoshanda kuti vanhu vagute, kwete anoshanda kuti iye aimbwe, anamatwe nekurumbidzwa siku nesikati. Ngatiisei vanhu vakawanda vachashandira nyika, vachinetsana vachikoshana imomo. Inclusive government yakatidetsera nekuti vanhu vaikoshana vari imomo. Ndo zvinoshanda. Iko zvino zanu yava yega hazvishandi. Saka ngatiitei zvinhu zvinoita kuti tibudirire. Ngatidzidzei zvidzidzo zvakajeka kubva mumasurvey.
Tinotenda Wamafume. Gibbs.
Dr. Sibanda Mbwekwe futhi kolapho sikhulume njalo ngezek itrust yayo leyi. Abantu bayithemba kakhulu Mashonaland West 67%, Marsh Central 59%, Mashonaland East 57%, Midlands 51%, Masvingo 47%, kusiya khona le phansi. Ibulawayo 26%. Bangala bayithemba kangako. Kuzobuya iHarare 32%, Mart North 36%, Mart South 37%. Kambe indaba ubona ngazani iMarsh West itrust kakhulu kumbe ngithi ithemba kakhulu izek ngasukhangele kobulawayo. Ungala kunjani? Kuhamba njani khona? Dr. Spanda. So what he's saying about trust in ZEC, he's saying that Mashonaland West has got the highest figures because people there, enjoyed a lot under ZANU PF, under ZANU actually, when it was still fighting in the war, And then he says after independence they enjoyed more problems again there. So now they have this kind of negotiated will to be part of the system, Then when it comes to Matabele and Bulawayo and other areas there, he says people there don't trust the president, one. So therefore they won't trust ZEC because they believe ZEC is under the president. That's his explanation.
And Mr. Mafume, maybe that same question. Why is it that even ZEC and the Zimra and ZRP are enjoying more support than the opposition?
Well, you must understand what has happening at the time of the survey. There was the Mujuru sector, who was the vice president then. ZANU-PF had just come out of an electoral victory. The issues, they were just coming out of an inclusive government. ZANU-PF had hoodwinked the people by promising them greater salaries, bigger portion of, there were many promises that were made, populist policies that were made. The tobacco season had been a record tobacco season at that time. It had brought in $1 billion, and you had farmers pocketing $10,000 from the auction floors into the pockets, people who had never seen that kind of money, and so forth. So the picture looks a bit rosier. If the survey were to be done now, where ZANU-PF is hopelessly split, the police are back to their brutality, the child Damara has been abducted, people are being beaten in Urunga East, in Ministers' constituency. If you were to do it now, ZEC is running elections for just one party, and so forth and so forth. If the survey were to be done,
Mr. Mafume, thank you so much. I'm sorry, time is not our best ally, but we want to thank you, Mr. Mafume, Dr. Sibanda, Mr. Obed Gutu, and Mr. Meli Dube, and our listeners, our viewers, and those who send us messages. Signing off, this is yours truly, Blessing Zulu. Of course, not forgetting our team behind the scenes, our producers and engineers. Good night.
This is Gibbs Dube in Washington, D.C. Have a lovely weekend.